Bougiewild, 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 Bougiewild. I said the universe gave it to me. I said the universe gave it to me. Bougiewild, 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 Bougiewild. I said the universe gave it to me. I said the universe gave it to me. Bougiewild can't be boxed. I'm free to be me. I'm living life, creating legacy. I'm living my dream. They call me extra. They say I'm doing too much. I'm just bougie wild. Cause I'm classy with some style. Bougie wild, 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 bougie wild. I said the universe gave it to me. I said the universe gave it to me. Bougie wild, 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 bougie wild. I said the universe gave it to me. I said the universe gave it to me. I'm rocking my own label. I'm wearing my own brand. See, y'all don't understand that this shit was never planned. Some call me bougie, some call me wild. The funny thing is, it's just my personality style. Hello, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Transparent Table Talk. I am your host, Bougiewild. Transparent Table Talk is a platform where people are willing to speak about their personal life from a humble, transparent, and vulnerable place. The purpose of the show is to bring awareness to topics society does not discuss that have people suffering in silence due to shame or blame. The vision is to create a place for people to have conversations without fear of judgment. The purpose is to have conversations that I wish someone would have had with me. And the goal is to inspire and to empower people to make the choice to live a happy life. The mission is to heal this hurt world by showing everyone that we all go through the same things. We have a choice to be reborn and live in the spirit. I am so excited tonight about tonight's episode and our guest. Let's introduce our guest for tonight. Her name is Amanda Kirkland. Amanda is a self-professed practitioner of self-care. A BAB stands for Balance, Authentic Babe Extraordinaire. Narcissists and toxic relationships used to surround me like a magnet field. I estranged myself from my parents and one sister almost 10 years ago. Today, my life is like 31 flavors of Baskin-Robbins ice cream. The younger version of me was obsessed with reading books and watching movies about the guilty. I wanted to be a criminal prosecutor, crown attorney, depending on what country you're living in. Turns out I didn't have the grades or the stomach for it. So I got into real estate development for a while. Now I'm a personal growth coach, yoga junkie, shopping friend to rival Julia Roberts, obsessive dog lover, and style at home wannabe interior designer. I love Amanda already, you guys. Let's welcome Amanda Kirkland to Transparent Table Talk. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, everybody.
Awesome. Welcome to Transparent Table Talk. And tonight's episode is from toxic to terrific. Amanda, what brought you to Transparent Table Talk?
I want to be able to share my lived experience and the lessons I've learned, in particular over the last few years, with others out there that might be struggling or not realize that their struggles are legitimate. I want to use my own lived experience and share that with clients, hoping that it will spare them having to go through some of the struggles I did in the last 30 to 40 years.
I just want to thank you for that, because that is the purpose of why Transparent Table Talk was created, so that those of us that are willing to share can help those of us that wish we had someone that shared. So thank you so much. So tell us about some of those things that you struggle with that took you from toxic to terrific.
One of them was coming or gaining the awareness that so many of the relationships I had had, and not that I just attracted, that I was either born into or were as a result of friendships or work situations, they were dysfunctional and toxic. And being on the other side of it, I started to have aha moments going, oh my gosh, these things weren't right. And I knew they weren't right because I was fighting to try to make changes. What I didn't know is you can't change other people. What I learned was sort of reframing and changing the way I looked at situations. I got up every morning for probably 30 some odd years, dressed, ready to do battle, because I'm strong myself, and that worked against me. I have certain ways I think the world should operate. I was constantly told, just because you think things should work that way doesn't mean they should. I still hold a firm belief that there are certain human, whether it's rights or manners, that there isn't a gray area. Someone holds a door open for you, you say thank you. Me being upset because someone hasn't done that, I was criticized for. And that's just wrong. You know, there's, like I said, there's certain human rights and ways that we should all be able to be treated. And, you know, one of those is being able to share your thoughts and beliefs and experiences freely without being judged and criticized for them and told that there's something wrong with you because you think that way or you're fighting for a certain belief.
So are you referring to, we all were born into our environment, our experience, and our exposure. And for those of us that realize we were conditioned a certain way based on our social norm, whether it was our cultural norm. And from what I'm hearing you saying, Amanda, is like, hey, I started seeing things different from what the norm was for my life, for my environment. And because I would speak up on these things, I was treated differently because I had boundaries I wanted to establish. I was establishing for myself on how I wanted to be treated. And as a result of that, I saw that I was staying in unhealthy relationships because I wasn't around my kind. I wasn't around people that was of like mind like me. And that is something that we all experience. That's the reason why Transparent Table Talk was created, because I too went through that. And, you know, I realized that, oh my God, if I've been through this, other people have gone through this. And so I can relate when I read your introduction, when you said that it was normal to be in toxic relationships. It was normal to be in dysfunction. But that moment that you made that decision that, you know what, I'm not doing dysfunction anymore. I realize this is not right. You get treated like something's wrong with you. So you are not alone.
No.
And you are not alone. You are not alone. So when you say you had that aha moment, what was that like? What was that moment that you realized like this is this is not right. What was that? Did something happen in your life?
I think it was just, I mean, COVID happened and I was in a career that was coming to an end, and I was, do I stay in real estate development or do I do something else? And I came up with a business idea, and I started working with a coach who had positioned herself as, I guess, helping entrepreneurs want to make X figures a month. So I went to her with this business idea I had, and it was a personal concierge service. And what I didn't realize is, before getting into the details of the business, there was a lot of mindset work. And through a lot of that work, I suddenly became aware of things like generational trauma. I became aware of like other people's behaviors and what their histories may have been. And, you know, I'd seen a talk therapist for years and years and years. And, you know, he got me through the day to day and the week to week for a number of years. But it wasn't until I started working with a coach on the mindset stuff that I remember her asking me once, she's like, how many shifts have you had in the last 4 months compared to the last 28 years? And I was like, it's basically mind blowing. And starting to just understand people and backgrounds and why they behave certain ways. So I started, I ended up strangely in a coaching world. And I never thought I'd become a coach. And the more I started working on niching down on who I wanted to speak to, it was, you know, strong women who are stuck in patterns of toxic relationships. I don't 100% believe that we necessarily attract all of them. Some of them, it is repeating patterns from, you know, how we have grown up. Others, you know, in a work environment, you may take a job, but you don't control and attract the other people that are employed by the same company, for example. In a family situation, you're born into that. You don't attract dysfunction. That dysfunction started before you were even thought of or created. You know, and they say when we're born, we come into the world this perfect little human being full of love and joy and probably a lot of tears and screams, but then the world gets their teeth into us and all that goes away. Not always, but a lot of it goes away.
I get it. I get it. I mean, it seems like you have just pulled all of my thoughts, and then you go back through my lives, what you are expressing. I get it. In reference to the conditioning, like you said, the shift of the mindset, and the mind is everything. I went through the whole transformation as well during COVID, and realizing, oh my God, who am I? I know who I am now. And that shift required me pushing a control alt delete to reset my mind.
All your old beliefs.
Yes, the old beliefs. And like I said, that's how Transparent Table Talk was born, because of the conditioning. And I had this awakening, right? I had this awakening like, oh my God, I've been doing things because of my conditioning. I was programmed. Like when you realize that you've been programmed and you have to go through that healing, and you realize that your relationships were formed based on the social norm, based on this is what I'm used to. This is normal for me. So when you say you had to tie down your niche and realize that there are women out here, I'm 45, and I relate to what you're doing, and it is needed. And more of us need to talk about it. We need to talk about the conditioning and how it has caused us to suffer. And I related to, I'm not a religious person, I am a spiritual person. And how I see this and how I explain this to people, I say, if somebody gave you 100 acres of land for free, but the land had old abandoned houses, abandoned cars, mangy dogs, and the grass hadn't been cut in 100 years, would you take it? And they said, yes. I said, what's the first thing you would do with it? They said, clean it up. When you said the mindset, we have to do the work to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of these abandoned houses, that's fear. You know, the mangy dogs, that's insecurity. The bags of trash, that's doubt. And all the grass is chaos, discord, conflict, irritation, aggravation, frustration. And so now we're operating and trying to walk through this land with all of this stuff, and we don't even realize. Let me stop and clean up my land. And I can't clean up my land in one day.
No.
And so that's the reason why this show was created, because I'm bringing awareness to people that we all have been through this, Amanda. And we don't talk about it as a society from a spiritual place, because that's the whole journey that we're on. Like you said, when we're babies, we're born into sin. Everything we're born into has nothing to do with us. We come in as a little goo-goo gaga baby. We, like you said, filled with love, joy, peace, and laughter. And then the world get a hold of us. So I get it, from toxic to terrific. So let me ask you this. If you could have that conversation with someone that you wish someone would have had with you, what would that conversation be?
You can't change other people. I can't believe how simple that sounds now, but I realize that's what I have been trying to do all the time. And I don't want other people to have to wait 30 years to figure that message out. I do a lot of work with the unconscious mind. Your conscious is sort of 10% from the neck up, and your unconscious is neck down 90%. And it basically holds in your cellular memory everything that's been said to you, done to you, everything you've said, you've done. And whether it's positive things or negative things, they just build on each other, and they create the filter with which you see the world and you react to things. So breaking those things down, and like you said, cleaning those things up, the negative emotions, the limiting beliefs, it's kind of coach speech. And I didn't know those things. I didn't know that I was trying to set boundaries with certain people in my life. If I'd had that awareness of what boundary setting was and saying no, for example, 25 years ago, some of the situations I was in may have been easier to live with. I may have made other decisions about the people in my life. I may not have put up with being told, you weren't born with the proper coping skills, or we've covered for you, or you wouldn't make it elsewhere, in a big organization because X, Y, and Z. And I think, with the awareness and the awareness, I still slip back the odd time and things trigger me. But instead of it taking me out for like weeks and me having to discuss it, with people and vent and try to get, validation or agreement, or, somebody telling me, yeah, you're right about the situation, I can now get myself out of that within hours versus weeks and months. And that's, it's a lot of reprogramming, because we do get programmed and conditioned by our experiences. And, they're not us at the core.
Let's talk about this self-awareness. Let's talk about this self-work, because self-awareness, self-love, it can sometimes be misconstrued. When we say we love ourselves, I'm gonna have self-love. And because when I talk to you, Amanda, you and I have so much in common. I come from a background too that I had to reprogram my mind. I decided to design instead of living default. I made a choice that I'm creating the life I want. Believing in myself. Amanda, I am a teenage mom, a high school dropout, 2 children by the age of 17. I have been on my own since I was 15 years old. This podcast, these conversations, the people that I listen to, let me know that I do realize I am on a journey to be that voice, to allow people to speak from a humble, transparent, and vulnerable place. It's time for us to come forward and say, we're tired of suffering in silence due to shame and blame, and nobody's talking about what we really went through, the conditioning, what it's like, this battle that we deal with every day, that we have to get up and make a choice that we are going to create the life we want, that we are going to train our minds, this self-awareness, this living intentional. What does that require? How do you maintain this self-awareness?
I think it's practice. Definitely. Like I said, I can still get triggered by certain things.
Yes.
I'm not a religious person either. 3-4 years ago, the universe started dropping a bunch of breadcrumbs in front of me. And one was working with a coach. And I never thought I would end up in this forum. I never decided that's what I was going to do. But obviously, I was at a point in time where I needed to do a little more work and have a bunch of aha moments about the situations I'd been in and how they affected me. And I've run with it. I went right instead of left. I've went from a great 6-figure career to starting something from scratch. But I've got the lived experience. I've got the training. I'm on the other side of things now. My life, I don't know I think you do have Baskin & Robbins in the States.
Yes.
Because somebody the other day was like, people aren't going to get that. And I was on another coaching call and all the coaches were like, oh yeah, we totally get what she's saying.
Yes.
People have fallen out of my life. New people have come into my life. You mentioned, I think when we were having a conversation before you started recording, I've attracted like-minded individuals.
Mm-hmm.
I have, some of them are other coaches. But when I start to see people referring people to me and them reaching out to me to do sort of energy exchanges, I'm like, sometimes you still doubt yourself because it's kind of like such a 180 from what I was doing. But I 100% believe in it. I've attracted, the best relationship I've had in my life. I'm 55, never married, no kids. And that didn't and wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone through some of the changes and becoming more aware of, I guess, other people's dysfunction and not fighting it and deciding, there's a line in The Gambler, know when to hold them, know when to fold them, and when to walk away.
Yes.
I wouldn't in every situation just say to somebody, oh, estrange yourself from your family. It's not as cut and dry as that. Some people financially can't do it. There's a bevy of reasons, obviously. I knew I had to do it, and I wasn't aware of what I was doing at the time, but it was, when I look back, it was self-preservation. Like, I couldn't change the dynamics, I couldn't change their minds. So it was, I sometimes use the example of being tossed in jail not guilty of a crime, and the more you defend yourself and you try to explain, the more thou doth protest too much. And it wasn't until one of my sisters had a situation with my parents visiting her, and she wrote a letter, and I sent her back some private, and we'd been estranged at the time, this one. I sent her back some private blog posts I'd written, and they were about narcissistic mother, and that I was a black sheep. And I hope that was okay using that term, because I know these days you have to be very politically correct about things. And I was a scapegoat. And it gave me validation. I'm like, okay, so yes, I was reacting to things, but at the core, like, I didn't start any of that. And being able to get rid of that, whether it was blame or holding on to that, there's something wrong with me, and that I'm broken and I need fixing. I needed healing. I was never angry, so to speak. I think I was more disappointed with, the journey I was taken on. But obviously, I had to go through those things to be sitting talking to you in Mississippi, at 6 p.m. Eastern time and 7 p.m. Standard Time. And, someone like you seeing me respond to one of your podcasts, looking for guests, and obviously acknowledging that I had a good message.
And let me just say, we have so much in common just sitting here listening to you. You mentioned the universe. That's where I am. And I've discovered that we're nothing but balls of energy. And like you said earlier, the things that we went through was because of the program and the dysfunction and the unhealthy relationships. That was all we had known. And that's the reason why I'm discussing it with people, because I want people to hear it from others that this is a common thing that we're going through as a society, but we're not discussing. And we have people suffering in silence because we're not coming forward and we're not having these conversations on the platform so that people can listen to our stories and understand what we go through. We have people that are staying in dysfunction, whether it is the vessel used to get you here. Society calls it a family. Well, we don't have a choice as to what we were born into. We don't have a choice as a child as to how we were conditioned. And then they don't even sit down and explain it from a standpoint that they call religion, so that we can understand to do not conform to the patterns of the world, but be renewed by the renewing of our mind. They don't even teach us that the same energy that's in the sun is in you and me. The same energy that's in the wind is in you and me. The same energy that's in the ocean is in you and me. So we don't even know the power that's in us, through us, as us. So now we're out in this world. We're seeking validation on the outside. We go out in the world because we've been so conditioned and conformed to seek this higher spirit on the outside. So now we're going out in the world seeking this higher spirit on the outside, seeking this validation on the outside, not even knowing who we are, living this life trying to seek validation in fear of rejection, because a lot of us been rejected, in the beginning, based on, it was normal to be rejected. It was, what love is, when you read the definition of love, and then you think about it from an adult and you say, oh my God, the person that was supposed to love me, I was taught dysfunction. I didn't even know what love was. So if I was never taught to love myself from the person or people in whom I was born into, how do you think I am going to operate out here in the world? So we're not talking about it. We're not being transparent. We're not being vulnerable. We're not talking about what we really go through. I too had to let go, everybody. I too was the black sheep, because when I made the decision, I'm not living this dysfunction anymore. Everybody said, "Oh, it's you. Oh, it's you." And I had to stand in it, Amanda, and say, "You know what? It is me. I'm okay with it being me." And I cried. I tell people, and I'm very open and honest with it. I went through a divorce in 2019. After my divorce, COVID happened. I let go friends, family, everybody. Went through a healing phase. Like I said, I had my first baby at 15 years old. So I had to go back and apologize to the little girl. I went and got pregnant at 15 years old, thinking that a baby was going to fix that. I felt like my mom didn't love me. I praise God. I didn't go do no drugs, and I didn't go do no alcohol. But I do have an angry son. He's 30 years old. A lot of the things that was done to me as a child, I end up doing to him. And I pray every day that his mind could be saved, because I've asked for forgiveness, but everybody don't make it. And that's the reason why I'm talking about these things. That's the reason why this show is created. That's the reason why I'm talking about life from a humble, transparent, and vulnerable place. Because when I had my revelation, it almost took me out. I had suicide thoughts. I cried. I felt like I had messed my life up. I felt like I had cheated my motherhood. I'm a mother of 4, ages 30, 28, 18, and 15. I have 5 grandchildren. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even know who I was. I became a mom. Like, all of these thoughts almost took me out, and the Holy Spirit saved me. He was like, Yolanda, don't live in the past.
No.
That had nothing to do with you. So I too resigned from my 6-figure job. I'm a previous IRS agent, worked for them for 20 years. I too said, you know what? I'm going out here. I've been surviving my whole life. Now I'm going to go out here and thrive.
Thrive.
I know my purpose.
And that's one thing I say about my with my clients. It's like, I don't want them just surviving. I want them thriving.
Thrive. Yes,
And
thrive. It's
it
our
is possible.
responsibility.
You're proof. I'm proof. It's not going to happen overnight by any means, but yeah, your world can really change.
Yes. And the thing about it is, we are operating. We don't even know who we are. But once you know who you are, you live in the now. That's what I'm practicing, living in the now. Living in the now. Like, if, like you say, sometimes we'll default back, and I'll go and listen to, like, it's this one book I listened to, The Game of Life and How It's Played. It's on YouTube. It's an audio book, and it just talks about the power of our words, the power of our thoughts, the power of our energy. And it works. Like, it works. Like I said, I'm not a spiritual person. I do read the word, but I read the word differently from other people. I do look at Jesus as in me, through me, as a replica of what I can do. I tell people I'm out in the world like Jesus. I live Christ-like. Like, God showed me what I can do through Christ. Instead of worshiping Christ, I walk in Christ. And I'm out on this mission to show people that we have a choice. We have a choice to accept that we have a responsibility to this energy, because this that move my fingers, that blink my eyes, that move my mouth, it's gonna leave one day. That same energy that have me talking, it's in us. It's in all of us. That's what it is. It's this energy. So we have a choice in what we do with it. We have a choice on how we think. We have a choice on how we program our mind, because we can't take any of the materialistic things. Like I tell people, I did society, I did success. So I'm excited, because all of my podcasts, I made this post and I said, are you willing to talk about life from a humble, transparent, and vulnerable conversation? And if you notice, we all having this conversation. We're all saying, you know what? This is where we're at. And, you know, my
And
whole
it shouldn't be taboo to talk about these experiences. And, you know, I'm a firm believer that keeping a lot of these things held up inside is what, you know, no
cause illness,
medical position, but it causes illnesses.
If you don't release the energy, it's gonna attack the inside. It's gonna attack the inside. I got a whole brand. I like to tell people, Bougiewild is my brand, Amanda.
Yeah, I've seen it on the website.
Yes, and it comes from people criticizing me. It comes from me evolving. You know, I come from the uneducated background. My mom was a high school dropout. I come from a poverty background. I'm grateful for my upbringing because I can take $10 and feed my family. I can buy me some chicken legs. I can buy me some rice. You know, I can feed all 4 of my kids and my grandkids if I have to. I'm just grateful for having those skills. But I have evolved in life. I did, you know, I was a teenage mom, high school dropout. I do have my accounting degree. I have my own business. I'm grateful. And so I got criticized for just growing. Some call me bougie, some call me wild. And I'm out here on this mission to share with people. And I'm like, I know if I'm having this, I want to have conversations that I wish somebody would have had with me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I'm grateful. Like, you all just don't know how grateful I am that I was able to put this podcast out. And the response I've received to sit here and have this conversation with you, to listen to your story, it's like a hug. It's like I feel your energy. Like, yeah, look, we stepped out. When we let go of that fear, doubt, and insecurity of letting go, everybody, look how the energy is bringing those.
And what it attracts into your life. And one of those things is me suddenly becoming, I'm not going to say I'm a sought after podcast guest, but there's been, you know, a lot of interest. So obviously there's a message there or a story that is worth or worthy of, you know, being told. And like I said at the beginning, you know, if I can help, whether it's 10 or 100 or 1,000 women and some men, because I have some male clients.
Mm-hmm.
I always say I lost 30 to 40 years of my life. And that was struggling with an eating disorder, you know, dysfunctional family relationships that, I mean, my childhood was picture perfect. I didn't know there was some covert stuff going on. They probably don't even know what was happening. But I can now piece back small bits and pieces about, for example, my parents' upbringing that may have affected how they were and how they brought me up. And that's generational trauma. And, you know, they did the best they could with the tools they had at the time. I think if parents had more tools that I think are out there now and there's more awareness, they will listen to their kids. And I kept telling my parents what was wrong, but the response was, there's something wrong with me. And I didn't necessarily like the choices they were making for me. I wasn't rebellious, but I was always more of like the rebel, and not in a bad way. Just, you know, I like to do things my way and thought things, and it wasn't the way it was supposed to be. So that made there be something wrong with me. And there really wasn't. And, you know, the core of me has always been like loving and thoughtful and kind, unapproachable and gritty. I got that too. But I think that was, like I said, I was on guard all the time. I was ready to defend. I was ready to fight. I was good at what I did. But all of that came at a cost of not having the same long relationships, friendships, family dynamics that I don't want to say most people have, because I don't think everything's perfect by any means. But, and, you know, now I'm on the other side of it, and it is possible. And I know, you know, some of my behavior or my reactions at the time weren't necessarily great or right, but they were what they were based on the situation I was in and the tools that I had at the time. I didn't know any better.
You and me both. And I mean, like I said, it's time for us to talk about this because what you went through, I can relate. You are not alone.
And when I was going through it, I mean, my sister, in one of the emails she wrote, she says, I don't necessarily agree with what you said and did in X scenario. And she's like, but I had no idea what a long, lonely road it's been for you. And until somebody said that to me, like that was a get out of jail free card for me. And, you know, that was 10 years ago. Sure, it's taken me 10 years to get to this point, but it's still worth it. And I do know it's possible.
Right. Right. So I thank you again for coming to share your story. What would you say that transparent table talk is doing for you, doing for society to have this platform created for people?
I think being able to share our feelings and not be told they're not right and we can't have them is hugely important. You know, I mean, we can all have different opinions and feelings and whatnot, but you know, when you're having an emotional reaction to something or you want to talk something through, you know, we don't all, like I said, have to have the exact same beliefs, but to be able to have platforms where you can share your experience and feel safe and not feel judged and be around like-minded, whether it's like-minded of the people that are in my life now or like-minded in terms of they've gone through or are going through similar things and they don't know what to do and they don't have resources and people to tell them that, you know, they are actually okay. And there are reasons other things are going on. And there are things like generational trauma and just to get an understanding of why some things may have happened to them in their lives or why they've ended up in situations they're in. So I just think podcasts like yours, you know, it's always a bit nerve-wracking getting on with a complete stranger and knowing how you're just going to babble away and have a conversation. This is great. I think, you know, you're going to do wonders with this, you know, and there's tons of topics that obviously can be covered. Yeah. Did that answer your question? Kind of, sort of?
It did. And let me ask you this. What is your life like now since you made that decision that I'm living intentional? I am aware I am going to face these fears, doubts, and insecurities I have. I'm living intentional. Like, I would like for you to speak to that person that's going through or struggling with that same thing that you went through. What is life like now for you?
Well, my shoulders aren't up like this anymore. They're down. I get called cute now sometimes.
Look at you, girl. Look, that smile be serious, don't it?
I smile a lot more.
Yes.
I can be silly.
Yes.
And I'm who I was meant to be if all the things that hadn't happened to me happened.
Yes.
So, you know, like I said, I'm 55. Hopefully I got a bunch more years that
you do.
I can walk around. You know, it's not that I haven't enjoyed parts of life, but not with the same struggles. So walking around a lot lighter, a lot happier. Like I said, you know, I fought somebody saying, "Oh, that's a cute picture of you." And I was like, "Cute?" I'm like, "Cute and Amanda, those two words don't go together." You know what?
Yeah.
They do now.
Go on, Amanda. That's what I'm talking about. Because the reality is, and what I had to realize, because I struggled too, Amanda, is I had to realize, you know what? That had nothing to do with me. What happened to me as a child, what they put in me, what I went through, when I realized that had nothing to do with me, because I too sat in a dark place for a long time, irritated, frustrated, and didn't even know it. Like, it was something you said. You said, we're living in this place and a lot of us don't even know it. I too had to let it go and just live in the now. That's what I want people to know. Like, live in the now. And that's the reason why I share my life. Like, that's my tagline. And I try to say something every day, from a humble, transparent, and a vulnerable place, because I want people to know that it's okay to be humble. It's okay to be transparent, and it's okay to be vulnerable. When we exhibit that, can't nothing hurt us, because we're living our truth now.
Yeah, we're owning our stories,
Right.
which is not a comfortable thing to do. I mean, even when I'm on here, chances are certain people will never see it. But there's the odd time when the words are coming out of my mouth, I'm like, but you know what? I'm not angry. I don't blame.
Right. No blame, no shame. It is what it is. Because I'm living in the now. I can't control the past. Like, I even dealt with the anxiety of the future. I don't even worry about that anymore. Like, right now on this podcast, I'm with Amanda. I'm enjoying this conversation that we're having. I'm doing the things that I have to do right now, that I know I'm going to be okay, because I know that I have the power of the energy to create the life that I want. Like, these are those beliefs that I tell myself every day. Like, my house is filled with positive affirmations. Every picture on my wall got something positive, because I have to train this every day. I have to get up every day. And like you said, sometimes it defaults back, and I have to go pull up something and listen to it. Like, hold up, Yolanda, wait a minute, because I'm aware now. I'm aware now that I'm screwed up. I'm screwed up, so I have to intentionally live. And I just made a choice that I'm putting my foot on the devil's neck, because what was put in me had nothing to do with me. My sister called me in November the 12th, actually. And she said, "Are you dying?" I said, "What?" She said, "Are you dying?" She said, "You've changed, because I quit my job, girl. I travel. I live in the now. Like, if I want to do it, I'm doing it. I'm taking responsibility. I make sure my children are okay. I got one more child, Amanda, girl. He'll be 16 years old. I've been a mama my whole life. I've been a mama my whole life. I am so
It's time for
ready to
you.
be
Time for you.
free. So, like, I am. She said, "Are you dying?" I said, "Girl, what you talking about?" So it took me months to answer her. And I answered her last week. And I said, "You remember when you asked me if I was dying?" I said, "I've died to the human man." I said, "The human man is what was conditioned in me. That had nothing to do with me. That had me suffering. That had me going out at 14 years old, feeling unloved, because I was raised by a single mom with 5 children. She was frustrated because she was uneducated. And I couldn't imagine, as a 45-year-old woman today, with a college degree and all that I have going on, to have had to raise 5 children, not knowing how to read, not knowing how to do things, life getting taken advantage of in life." And I'm just seeing this from a child looking back now. I couldn't imagine what it's like. So I am so grateful on this day. I am so grateful on this day that I am, that I have the mindset, that I am the person I am, that I can go out here and face my fears, doubts, and insecurities, and speak about my life with no shame, no blame, from a humble, transparent, and a vulnerable place, that I'm not angry anymore, that I'm not hurt, that I refuse to deal with dysfunctional relationships, that I can speak my truth. I don't care if you reject me. I don't care if you don't like me. I'm gonna be myself. Like, hey y'all, my name Yolanda.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get over the worrying about people liking me, but
You
we're all works in progress.
Yes, you are on your way. And the thing about it is, what I had to realize is everybody is not going to like me. And when they don't like me, like I'm in tune with my energy so deep that if you don't like me, I know you don't like me, and don't come up, you don't like me.
But it's about them, it's not about you.
Right. So, you know, it is what it is. But I thank you so much for being our guest on Transparent Table Talk.
Thank you for having me.
And please keep in touch, because I like to surround myself with like-minded people, and we have to inspire each other on this journey. You know,
Absolutely.
we have to inspire each other. That's just sending motivational messages to each other, or just saying, hey girl, I'm thinking about you today. You got this, because it does take us to support each other on this journey. Thank you again.
Thank you. It's been great being on here.
Awesome. You have a great evening.
Have a great evening too. Okay, take care.
All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.
I'm free to be me, it's what you see in my energy. I'm real with myself, I don't conform to society. I'm free to be me, it's the only way for me to stay true to my identity. I'm free to be me, I'm a person of integrity, something that's not recognized in society. I'm free to be me, it's the only way for me. It's the key to my serenity, conform to social norms. I'm doing Bougiewild, 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 Bougiewild.